We will start talking about adolescents. And those of you that don't know me, while I open up my screen and my slides, I am Lena Acosta Sandal, and I am the owner and founder of Stop Parenting Alone. And Stop Parenting Alone is a parenting education and consultation program. And I opened it because I know that with the right information, all of you as parents always usually make the right choices for your children. What happens is that a lot of the time you don't have the right information, and the right information is about development, the development of your children, the psychology of your children, and this organ right here, the brain. Everybody talks about mental health. I am on the movement of calling it brain health because that's what we are doing. And when we talk about adolescents, when we talk about teenagers, we can never avoid or not think about the brain, right? Because there are a lot of big things that are happening for your child. So first and foremost, they are not lazy. They are shifting the neurological patterns of sleep. And this happens to every mammal every human mammal between the ages of 12 to somewhere between 24, 30, depending on where you live. Adolescence tends to extend itself in more developed countries because we tend to protect them more in developed countries than we do in less developed spaces, meaning that they can get to adulthood faster if we would stop doing things for them. So this idea of your adolescent being lazy, I know that you have really thought this, especially in global pandemic times when the sleeping schedule went to hell because you just didn't want to fight with them, and they've been going to sleep at 1 o'clock in the morning and they've been waking up at 11 a.m. right? So guess what? That's actually sort of the biorhythm of their brain. We know through multiple studies that in this age group, the brain tends to take longer to process the chemical responses, the neurological chemical responses that create sleep. Sleeping is like digestion. We can't make it happen. We can create habits that helps the biorhythm change, but we have a natural rhythm. Just like some people digest their food within an amount of time, and some digest food and it takes them longer, right? That's like, are you regular? Do you go to the bathroom every day, or do you go every 2 days, right? And you would never you do. Some people take pills for the digestion, but you get my drift. So as it pertains to sleep and as it pertains to lazy, no more calling them lazy. Understand that the biorhythm is changing, and understand that the school system is hurting our teens by making them go to school at 7:30 a.m. in the morning. So, oh my God, Lena, what am I going to do? My kid has been waking up at 11, at 12, at 1, at 2. School starts tomorrow if you're a Gulliver student. School starts next week if you're a Ransom student, and school starts the following week if you're a public school student. What do I do? Okay, for everybody, the way to fix bedtime is to get a consistent wake-up time, right? So starting today, no matter how much rolling of the eyes and how much they hate you, or, turn off the Wi-Fi, like you don't use it either. And tell them, okay, you better go to sleep because I'm going to wake you up at 6 o'clock because tomorrow, next week, the following week, you have to wake up at 6:30 so you could be on your virtual classroom at 7 a.m. or I have to wake you up, whatever. So start waking them up at the time that they're supposed to start, right? And in a perfect world, you would have done this in the beginning of August and started pushing back the wake up time by 15-minute increments, because that's how we can change the habit of sleep, by pushing back, right? If they were waking up at 11, then the next day you woke them up at 10:45, and then you woke them up at 10:30, you know, and then you would have gotten all the way to when the time that they need to wake up, which is 6 or 6:30 or 7, right? And then by definition, in adolescence, not the little itty bitty ones, but in adolescence, you know, that creates that sleepiness at night. And yes, they will be slightly sleep deprived for about a week to 10 days if you do this pattern, right? In these first 2 weeks of school, when you are reprogramming the sleep patterns, please wake them up Saturday and Sunday. I know, you just took a deep breath. You hate me. You want to punch me in the face. But because again, it's a biorhythm, right? And be mindful to share the brain information with them so that they understand that you're helping them, and you understand that, you know, if they were sleeping in a normal biorhythm way of their age group, school would start at 11 and would end at 6, because that's actually the best time for them to learn. So they're irresponsible, right? They never stick to anything. They are comme ci, comme ça. They're up and down. Oh my God, my child is so irresponsible. Well, no, they're novelty seeking. So what does that mean? When we enter adolescence, we begin to wonder, who am I and who do I wish to be? And this is why it's so painful to be a parent of a teenager, because if in early childhood you had to deal with constant conflict and constant rejection of your rules, in the adolescent years, it feels like they are betraying you and betraying your values and betraying everything you've taught them. And that's what they're supposed to do. In the search of who I am, the healthiest thing to do is to question everything. So the kindest thing for you to do as a parent of an adolescent is to be curious about what they are questioning, right? Do you keep the expectation and the rule of you know, what you expect from them from school? Yes. Do you keep the expectation and the rule of what you expect from curfew? Yes. Do you keep the expectation and the rule of how you expect them to feed themselves? Yes. Why? Because these are rules about health and safety, and be very clear, super duper clear about that rule. So there is no question, right? So, but if they're questioning whether or not they want to be Catholic anymore, if they're questioning whether or not they believe in some of the values that you've taught them anymore, please be curious and wonder with them, and help them tell you why they're doing that, which leads me to, they're so disrespectful. They're constantly saying no, whatever. Oh my God, you're so stupid. Why are they doing that? Because when we begin to question, who am I? Who do I want to be? What do I believe in? I begin to debate. So debate in the teenage years is like when they used to pull up on the tables so that they can walk. So every single time that your 13, 14, 15, 16, 18-year-old looks at you, or even your 22-year-old looks at you and goes, "That's so stupid, Mom. I can't even believe that you said that." Most of you make the immediate mistake of like, don't speak to me like that. I want you to slow down and remember, oh, they're pulling up on the table. They're learning how to debate an idea. They're learning how to, ooh, good question. I'll save that one for Q&A. They're learning about, everything, right? So in that moment, and just like when they were learning to walk, they're learning to debate, they're learning to speak, they're learning to be clear on their ideas. In that moment, I want you to say, okay, look, I know that you disagree with me on this, and I'm hearing your disagreement, and I'm open to hearing you. But when you called me stupid, it sounded really disrespectful, and it was hard for me to hear. So let's start over. Right? And do that every single time. Or if they're really into it, if they're really passionate, like ignore the stupid and just go, what makes you say that? Why are you're saying this so passionately? What were you thinking about what I said? And then listen. And why, you beautiful parent of a teenager, FYI, I have a 15-year-old. So, now I know everything that I know about teenagers academically, but now I also know it as a mother. It's hard because we're scared. Because if they're changing their values, because if they're changing the way that they think, and it's very different than from us, we don't recognize it and we don't know how to protect them. But we're not supposed to protect them. Not anymore. Ugh. You want to punch me in the face? I feel it. I know I can't even hear you, but I can feel it, right? This is the time, and then back to this idea of rejecting. Oh, they're rejecting the family. They're rejecting us. They're rejecting everything I say. Everything I say is awful. No. They are moving into social engagement and moving into knowing who they are. And for me to know who I am, I have to try to problem solve on my own. Why do they only come to you when their head is on fire, when they get into trouble? Why? Because just like when they were itty bitty and they were still so adorable, right? And a 3-year-old mama will tell you it's not adorable, but we all know 15, 16, 17, yes, them telling I do it when they were trying to put on their shoes when they were 3, it is adorable. But at 15, they're 15, 16, 17, 14, they're also saying, I do it. It's just that this time is high stakes because what they're doing is life. And the more autonomy and the more you let go and the more you let them write the email to the teacher that is bothering them, or not, and then messing up and failing, the more life lessons they will have. If you do it for them, you become their manager. And it could have two effects, right? Oh, it doesn't matter. My mother's going to do whatever she wants anyway, so F it. And then they do things on the sly and they lie to you, right? Or they believe you that they can't do it on their own and they always need to look to somebody else to tell them what to do, which in a perfect world, they have a nice job where somebody's always telling them what to do and they kind of don't question anything. Or in a very dark world, they can get themselves into codependent relationships that can be very emotionally harmful. So that's why I need your adolescent to practice this idea of solving problems on their own. So I've already given you kind of like, how to guide and assist them. But I like to repeat myself because I know that your brain needs to hear it more than once. So how do you keep them safe in this world of chaos and all that business? Be clear on your rules and expectations, right? So this is the time that I expect you to, turn off the phone and turn off the computer. And if you forget, guess what? The Wi-Fi goes off in our house at 12 p.m. and 12 a.m. and tomorrow you'll get the password, right? And help them, or put the screen stuff that the iPhone lets you do, right? Two, this is when we eat together as a family. This is when we get together as a family. You are expected there. Plan your social events around that. 3, in pandemic times, this is what our family is doing. This is what we think is safe. We think it's safe because we are looking at these statistics and this information, and we know you don't like it, but you have to follow it, right? And that's it. And be clear, and that's your expectation. If they sneak out in the middle of the night, if they sneak a friend into your house, that's when you're like, okay, you're showing me that I can't trust you. So now, you're not going to spend time with friends for 2 weeks, a week, those months, and those until you pick up that grade, just creates a case of the efforts in the adolescent brain. Too long of a consequence. It's like, well, I'm in trouble anyway. And that sounds like so much fun, novelty seeking. And the brain overrides your punishment and then they go do it. So don't give your child a case of the efforts. Keep a yes response state. What do I mean by that? When they're debating you, when they're telling you, I don't want to be Catholic anymore, when they're telling you, I don't know, I want to be vegan, okay, yes, I hear you. It's so hard for me to hear because I love meat. And I think that meat is important because it's going to give you protein, but tell me what you think. And then if they make sense, you wouldn't do it, but they're making sense for themselves, you're going to hate me again, especially for 15 and up. Let it go. Let it go and tell them, okay, so if you're going to be vegan, show me how you're going to eat protein, and allow them to figure it out, because guess what? Vegetables have protein. It's an urban myth that they don't. You are the parent, not their friend, not their mentor. So make sure that they have adult mentors around them. Who is an adult mentor? A coach, a teacher, a close friend of the family, a family member, and adolescents need adult mentors. We as parents keep the expectations, the rules, and the scaffolding. So we are the bad guy because we are kind of tethering them enough so they can go explore and come back, right? So make sure that they have adult mentors around them. But Lena, in global pandemic times, that has disappeared. That's true. So wonder with your kid, hey, is there an adult that you would like to speak to? Or hey, I heard about this internship. I know that you've been saying that you're really interested in art. I heard about this in this internship at XYZ Gallery. Why don't you sign up? So help them find that mentor. And I love when they tell you that they want to become a visual artist. Don't say, no, there's no money in that. What are you thinking? You said you were going to be a lawyer. No, knocking that off. That's part of their novelty seeking. Say to them, oh, okay, that's really interesting. Why don't you get a job at a gallery? Why don't you intern at a gallery? Why don't you, because it would be really interesting for you to be around other visual artists in the city. And then help them find that mentor. Help them be aware of the self, the other, and the group. So what do I mean by that? Right now, in the debates that we have around health, our community at large is having a hard time, figuring out what to do for yourself, because we're not thinking about the others, like people with, that are older, or people with chronic disease. And the big group at large is not giving us a lot of information, right? So that's an example of if the big group at large would tell us, if there's these many positive cases, we should stay at home. A lot of us would be like, okay, got it. That's a simple rule. That's a rule and an expectation. So what am I going to do for my family, and how am I going to take care of myself as an individual? Right? So with your adolescent, whenever they come at you with something, or whenever they debate with you, and remember, I want you to debate with them because it's building that ability to problem solve and debate, and to think about, who am I? Who do I want to be? Make sure that you think about, okay, so in what you're talking about, okay, so you're telling me that you want to go to the soccer tournament. True story. My 15-year-old likes to play soccer. Just, by in this risk risk spectrum of I'm going to stay home no matter what, and I'm going to go to being a 10, and I'm going to go to the sandbar on my boat and be happy and jolly. That's a 1. I'm a 7, 8. I lean more towards I don't like it. It's too risky. I'm not 100% on all the information. So I had to have this conversation with my daughter because her team is planning to go to a tournament in September. So I had to talk to her about herself. You know, how does this feel for you? Dad and I have decided that you can't go. How do you think that we should manage the team, right? And how do, and so her, how does this feel for you? How do you think that coach feels? How do you think that mom and dad feel? So that's other. And then what do you think that we should share with the team so that you could follow this rule that we're imposing on you, right? Mom and dad, because we're telling her no soccer tournament games in September, just because my husband and I have decided what's our number and when we will expose our children. By the way, that's how you make that decision. And right now, because we don't have solid numbers from an authority that's above us, all of us have to figure out what's our number and what's our criteria to make these decisions. And then be really, really mindful of off time and quiet time. And off time and quiet time is up to them. Sometimes they're in their room with headphones on, listening to music. Sometimes they're on a group chat with their friends. And sometimes they're just quiet, right? Sometimes your child has always been kind of introverted and slow to warm, and you're worried that they're not hanging out with friends because they're teenagers and they're supposed to be out there. And no, not if they've never done that, right? For some adolescents, you know, the quarantine was the best thing that ever happened to them because they don't have the pressures of being social. So in the off time and the quiet time, and honoring that for them, know that sometimes they can't be with family. They just need to decompress. And it goes back to this idea of they're learning who they are, what do I believe, and who do I want to be. And that is constantly shifting and changing. So take a picture before I turn off the, the screen. So I'm going to stop sharing now. And like I said, there are 3 ways to ask me a question. You could put it in the chat. You could put it in the Q&A. Or you can raise your hand and I'll unmute you. So I'm going to put everything, I'm going to make it so that everybody can unmute themselves if they want to and ask me a question. But I'm going to go with the first question that is in the Q&A. So it says, how to talk about sexual orientation. So, of course, between, you know, from 10 on is when a person kind of discovers what what they are attracted to. Right? Who when they imagine kissing and touching somebody, usually, you know, somewhere between 10 and up, you know, and it's just like talking, walking, right? There's a range, you know, right? So, though, when we talk about, but we're talking about the older ages. So sometimes when a parent asks me, how do we talk about sexual orientation? It's because you think that your child is LGBTQ or queer, you know, I kind of like that term that the kids use now, you know, they're queer. They're not the typical, they're not hetero. And they haven't said anything to you yet. So I'm going to answer both ways. So how do you talk about sexual orientation? Well, this is hard because there are some religious values around sexual orientation. But what we know developmentally is that it is part of development, right? Nobody ever looks at a heterosexual person and goes, was it that movie? Was it that movie that you saw of the people, the heterosexual people that were loving each other? That's what convinced you, right? No, 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 no. It was that song that talked about kissing her and loving her. And are you sure that you want to be with a woman? Are you sure you're heterosexual? Are you sure that all your friends talking about being heterosexual hasn't convinced you that you're heterosexual? Because that's what we do with a child that is wondering, right? And because sexual orientation is just like everything else that develops. It's just like no, if you are heterosexual and you're having a hard time wrapping your mind around being bisexual or homosexual or just asexual, right? Like some kids now have no interest in sex, so they say that they're asexual and that they want to have loving relationships without the sex. It's you knew if you're heterosexual that you wanted to touch that boy. For me, it was Douglas Palladino. Wherever you are, I knew. So if it's you think that they may be wondering about their sexual orientation, but they haven't said anything to you, wait, leave them alone. Allow them to have their journey, because like I said, they are wondering who they are, wondering what they believe, wondering who they want to be, and then just love on them, right? And if you are just extroverted and you can't hold and retain yourself, and you want to say, hey, look, I don't know, leave me alone, I'm crazy, I love you no matter what, right, baby? Right? Because put it back into whenever you're wondering about anything about LGBT or queer, put it in heterosexual terms. Are you going to ask your child if they want to have sex with a boy? Probably not, if you put it into the heterosexual terms. But all of a sudden, if you imagine that they may be LGBTQ, your brain does this thing. And it does the thing because of the social stigma. Fortunately, this generation is in a lesser stigmatized area about that. So if you think that they might be going that way, and they're not saying anything to you, just wait. If you just want to talk about sexual orientation, that conversation should have happened a long time ago. But it's okay. There's no, and you can give them your ideas, your values, what you believe. It should happen between 10 and 14. But I will tell you, as a mental health professional and as a child development expert, that it's not being LGBTQ for the individual that hurts them. It's what happens when they tell another and the other rejects them, or when they think about society that rejects them. So it's actually the external factors that usually hurt the internal factors of a child that's LGBTQ. So I took a long time on that, but I think it's a really super duper important question. And Yes Institute is a great place to go take classes on gender and orientation, to go take classes on defining femininity and masculinity, and or just calling and talking to that community, to experts in that community that know how to talk about sexual orientation and gender. Okay. Let's see, is there any questions? Anybody want to raise your hand? No? Any questions on the chat? No. Okay, so I'll continue with the Q&A. How do you cope in being an extrovert mom and your son and husband are introverts? Ready? I'm gonna pull out my sword. I'm gonna grab it. Ready? Putting it back. Here goes. By accepting them. And that's hard, right? Because sometimes it's very hard for us to look at someone that we love and to look at somebody that we honor and cherish and not project how we are happy onto them, right? It's hard for us to imagine that sitting around and reading a book, or, you know, playing, I'm going to say Minecraft, but in this age group, they don't play Minecraft, but playing a video game alone is really, really great. So like an introvert that has spent like 5 days on virtual learning, or, and kind of socializing, they really need that off time. So if your temperament style does not match your child's or your husband's, use curiosity. And you could say you could say these two things, right? You can say, I'm telling myself a story that you're really, really sad because you are not going out to the boat, and because I read from all the moms that all the boys are going out on the boat, and I'm making up in my mind that you're really sad about it. So can you clear it up for me? And then if your introverted kid goes, that is my worst nightmare. I am perfectly content here in the air conditioning without sun. Believe them. So whenever you tell somebody else, I'm making up a story, right? It really works. I knew this. I had always said this in therapy, but the other night I finally watched the Brené Brown Netflix special. If you haven't seen it, go ahead and watch it. If you don't know who Brené Brown is, go. Brené Brown, go. The 2 TED Talks that she has are amazing. And then now she has a new Netflix, and I've heard her speak 1,000 times. That's why I had to listen to it. But she talked about research that people that are able to communicate hard things usually use, you know, I'm making up a story, or, you know, I was thinking, or can you clarify this for me? So when you don't match the temperament of your child, and especially in adolescence, be curious. And you can tell on yourself, or you can say, hey, how you doing? And believe them. And again, it's hard to believe them because we have a particular way of thinking and feeling of happiness. And for an introverted person, the most loving thing that you can give them is space and time. And just like for an extroverted person, the most valuable and beautiful thing that you can give them is your ear, and for them to feel seen. So for your son and your husband, give them space and time, and ask them to help you, for you to know that they see you. Because it's hard for an introvert to tell another person, hey, I heard you, I see you. Okay? Oh, that was helpful. All right. My daughter's best friend told her that she is bisexual. Okay. That's okay. Right. You know, children in this age group are finding out, who am I? Who do I want to be? And who am I going to be in the world? And if her best friend has decided that she's thinking that she's attracted to both people, that's okay, right? It's the trick is to put it into heterosexual terms. If your daughter's best friend would have told her that she was really attracted to Johnny, it wouldn't be so scary, right? Because I am thinking, you know, I'll use my trick. My head is telling me that you are telling yourself that now her best friend is going to, you know, try to change her, right? And you know, think of what values are you going to give your daughter around relationships, right? And one very important value, because we always talking about sex to our teens, but rarely do we talking to our teens about romantic relationship, right? There are lessons to be taught about romantic relationships. By the way, go to the blog in my website, press the search bar, press teens, and there's a Facebook Live that I did, you know, before pandemic times, that all I talk about with Christy of Los Tweens and Teens is how to talk to a teenager about relationships, not sex, relationships, right? So think about that your daughter has a best friend that's a boy that all of a sudden tells her, I think I like you. What would you say to your daughter? Would you tell her not to spend time with him anymore? I wouldn't recommend that, because I want your child to be able to manage situations that are difficult. And in this scenario, you're not crazy. It can be difficult if her little friend tells her, you know, and I'm so sorry, I know that we're friends, but since I'm bisexual, I find you attractive, because that's perfectly normal, right? And I want you to be able to tell your daughter, just because you care about her, just because you love her, it doesn't mean that you have to be sexual with her, which is exactly what we want to tell someone when we talk about romantic relationship. You don't have to be sexual with somebody just because you imagine that they will reject you or that they won't be your friend anymore, right? And that's true whether a girl tells her that she's attracted to her or whether a boy tells her that they're attracted to her. What we have to teach our children is how to manage romantic relationship. So I think a good conversation to have with your daughter is to say, well, if you're worried that because you're such best friends and she thinks that she may be attracted to boys and girls, there's a possibility that she'll tell you, hey, can we kiss? And baby girl, I want you to honor yourself. And if your heart is telling you to say no, then go ahead and do it. And I know that it's really scary, because it may mean that your friend is going to feel, you know, reject you or going to be mad with you. But we should never be sexual with anyone just because we don't want to hurt their feelings, or just because we don't want to feel rejected by them, or we're going to lose their friendship. So this is more a lesson around the rules of romantic relationships. So think about, besides in this age group, and again, this is a good conversation from like 8th grade on. We talk about sex, you know, you know, what are condoms, venereal diseases, pregnancy, and you know, how to make a decision when you're ready to have sex. And we talk about what it means to be in a romantic relationship, right? And in romantic relationship, there are rules to romantic relationship. And one of them is honoring yourself, even if you're scared that the other person is going to stop talking to you or is going to stop being your friend. So that's a great rule of relationship. Okay, so I've answered all the questions, I believe. I'll give you guys one more chance to unmute yourself if you want to ask me a question verbally, or you can chat it, or you can Q&A it. We're good? All right, so if we're good, I'm going to end our little free Zoom. Thank you for coming on. I'll share my screen again and let you know how to continue working with me. So let's see. You can have a parent consultation with me. And the way that that works is I do exactly what I just did right now, but you get to tell me everything about your child, your history. I send you a form that you fill out, and when I read it, I kind of get a picture of what's going on. We talk for an hour and a half. You tell me individualized things. I give you individualized information. Right now, I just answered in a general term, right? And then you walk away with a plan of action within an hour and a half. That's my parenting consultation is $300. So you can give us a call at 305-392-0788, or you can go to the website, hit contact, hit schedule, and you can fill out that form and you will get scheduled to see me. Or you can join my awesome service, because I think it has a lot of value. It's online parenting support. It's $49 a month. And every Tuesday at 1 o'clock, I do this right here, but I get to know the members of the community. I answer people's questions just like I did today, as well as we have a private Facebook group where you can ask questions 24/7. And I go in every day except from Saturday at 4 to Monday morning, because I take Saturday evening and Sunday, I turn off all my digital, and I answer the questions directly. So it's like having me and this brain of mine with child development information in your pocket, and that's $49.95. So, you know, it's a really bad, you know, steak meal a month. And you'll also get a private area in my website where I have put tons of information and that I imagine that are relevant to the age group. So those are the two ways that you can continue working with me. And social media, I'm constantly giving out free information, constantly giving out tips. I am not stingy with information, so make sure to follow me on social media. And you can text 66866, the word ready, to 66866, and it will put you on my email list. And that's another way to get in contact with me if you have more questions than answers. And the blog on the website is actually really, really good. So thank you so much. Unmute yourself if you want to say thank you and lovely stuff. And I will see everyone a month from now when I will have the team talk again. And this recording will go to the website as well. You could look under blogs, you can hit recorded talks, and you can hear it all over again in case you need a refresher. All right, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.